Hey y'all, thanks for joining us here on the Grahamstead. If you want to learn more about homesteading and maybe growing a little bit of your own food, definitely hit the subscribe button, but please leave a comment below so I know that you're here, so I make sure that I can say hello. I'm going to tell y'all how I get from seed to a nice big bowl of tomatoes. Anytime you have a vegetable that's going to take a long time from seed to harvest, it's always smart to go ahead and start them indoors so you can kind of get a jump on the season. Another reason why I start them inside is it's a more controlled environment. I have control over the temperature, how much light they're getting, how much water they're getting, and they're not going to be exposed to all the harsh elements outside, like if a storm comes through or something like that. So it just generally will give you a nice, healthy start to your plants if you start them inside. So as far as what I start inside, you can really start any seeds you want inside. I've never done carrots inside or anything like that. And there are seeds that I pretty much always direct sow, like green beans, and I'll direct sow my squashes and stuff like that, and southern peas. But truth be told, you really could start those inside if you wanted to. There's nothing wrong with that. But some things do transplant better into the garden than others. That's why I've never done like carrots or something like that. So I have a hard enough time with carrots as it is. They're tricky. So really you want to start anything inside that's going to take a long time from seed to harvest. This year, I'm going to start my tomatoes and my peppers. I'll also start things like marigolds. Sometimes I'll start basil inside. And I haven't had a good year with cucumbers the last couple of years. So this year I actually think I'm going to start my cucumbers inside, but I'm going to wait a little bit longer. Right now it's the end of January. And our last frost in our area is going to be like sometime around mid-March. So that's about 5 or 6 weeks away from right now. So now is really the perfect time to get going on it. I really could have probably even started a couple of weeks ago and it would not have hurt a thing. So I just didn't, but it's not too late. And also like winter veggies. Some of the winter veggies take a long time, like broccoli and cabbage, cauliflower, stuff like that takes a really long time seed to harvest also. So those like the colder winter months. So I will go ahead and start those seeds like at the very end of summer. And that will give those plants enough time to grow. I always like to start my seeds in the kitchen because I walk by where I have my seeds started a bajillion times a day. So for me, if they are out of sight, they're going to be out of mind, which means they're not going to get watered and they're going to die. So I like to start them right on my kitchen counter. I just kind of clear everything off and make a big space for them. And that way I can keep track of their watering. I can keep track of when they need their light. As far as water goes, you always want to check for dampness on your soil before you water your seedlings. You don't want them to dry out, but you do not want them to be really wet either. You will not have a good germination if they're really wet. So always check for dampness before you water. And as far as lighting goes, I do use it's a full spectrum grow light. I just bought it at like my local big box hardware store. I do hang a grow light above them once the seedlings have germinated, and you want to hang your grow light really close to your seedlings. That way they don't get too leggy. If you have your grow light way up here, your plants are going to grow really thin and really tall, and they're going to be really weak on the stem. So you really want your grow light to be just like an inch or two above your seedlings. So you have to kind of adjust it as they're growing, but you want to keep that grow light good and close. That way they grow a nice strong stem and they're not stretching to reach the light. You don't want them to stretch to reach their light. So that's really important too. Once your seedlings are big enough, say, 4 to 6 weeks, whenever I'm ready to put my seedlings out in the garden, you have to harden them off. And hardening off your seedlings, what you want to do, like a week before you put them out into the garden, you want to start putting them outside. Start with an hour, then do 3 hours, then maybe half a day. And it just kind of acclimates your plants to being outside and in the elements, which is going to give them a much stronger start once you do transplant them into the garden. So today we're going to start some seeds, and I will show y'all how I like to start my seeds. That way we can go from seed all the way to this nice bowl of tomatoes. I got these from Home Depot. I know y'all have probably seen these before. This is nothing new. It's just those little expandable pots, basically. It's soil with a little netting wrapped around it. And you just soak them in warm water and they expand. They come with trays to hold the water, which is really nice because it can get watered from the bottom up. And then they came with these little like greenhouse tops. So you'll keep the greenhouse tops on them until everything starts to sprout. And then once everything starts to sprout, we either need to move them to direct sunlight, or I've got a couple of grow lights that I can bring in here for a little bit. I've got pretty much today, I am doing my tomatoes and my pepper seeds. So I've got a ton of stuff I've got to start. These trays that I ended up buying, each tray has 72 of these in them. What I'm going to do first is water the pellets with some warm water. You put about an inch and a half of water in each tray, and these little pellets will expand and then we can get them planted. Let's get started. I want my seeds to be 1/4 inch deep, and I should have enough seeds to do a couple per pod. And once they get to be a couple inches tall, I'll thin them to whatever the healthiest plant is. I think that when you plant several in a little pot together, they kind of help each other grow. I don't know if they compete with each other or if they help each other out. They hold each other up and everybody's just nice and sturdy and strong that way. So I think it works best that way. That's just me though. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to take my little skewer and just kind of push some dirt over them. All right, well, that was quick and easy. All the tomatoes are seeded, so now it's on to the peppers, our favorite. Okay, my trays are full. I've got all my tomatoes and peppers, and I dug around in my seed drawer a little bit and found some marigold seeds. So this whole tray is peppers, and underneath the peppers, I have a heating pad. Peppers like it to be nice and warm to germinate. So hopefully that creates enough heat to keep them nice and toasty so we get a real good germination rate. But everything is seeded and set. Just have to cover them and they'll be ready to go. All right, y'all, everything's starting to germinate pretty well. So I wanted to show you my grow light setup. You can see all the tomatoes are starting to pop up. So I put a tray underneath my seedling tray just to kind of raise it up. That way it's a little bit closer to the grow light. That way the tomatoes don't get leggy. Like I said, if that light was hung higher, all of these tomatoes are gonna start stretching to get up to that light, and they're just gonna be tall and lanky and weak. So definitely hang your grow light nice and close to your seedlings. I've got a water bottle and I have poked 3 little holes in the top of this, and it just really lightly waters everything. It doesn't disturb anything. These tomato plants are really starting to look great. I would say they are probably about 2.5 weeks old. As you can see, they all have their true leaves. This is the true leaf right here. These are the leaves that you see at first when the seed sprouts. And then these are the true leaves. The roots are growing out of the edges here. So I'm going to go ahead and repot them because I think they would benefit from that at this point. All right, I've got everything that I need out here set up to repot my tomato seedlings. I've got some eggshells that are crushed. I baked them to kill any germs or anything like that. And I've got a bag of Epsom salt. So the tomato shells provide calcium, and just like humans, plants absorb calcium better if they have magnesium. So that's why we use the Epsom salt. I've got my containers, and then I've got my tray of tomato seedlings that are doing amazing. They look great. The roots are starting to grow out there, so it is definitely time. All right, I've got all my pots laid out on the picnic table. I'm going to go through and give each little pot a scoop of dirt. Once I get the scoop of dirt in there, I'll go back and give each pot a little bit of eggshell Epsom salt mixture. Once that is done, we can start dropping the transplants in the pots. I've got all my tomato seedlings in the pots. You can see they're pretty far down there. They are on the organic garden soil with the eggshells and the Epsom salt. But you can see how far down I've buried them. When you transplant your tomatoes, you want to plant them like 2/3 of the way deep. So we're going to fill this up almost all the way to the top. By planting it 2/3 of the way deep, that's going to give you a nice strong root system on this tomato plant because, let me show you something. See those teeny tiny little hairs? Those eventually will become roots. And so you want to bury this plant all the way up to there. And so they will look really short by the time we get them all planted, but that will give it a nice super strong root system. I got all of my tomato seedlings completely potted up yesterday. I left them out here on the porch on the picnic table, and today they're going to get some nice sunshine. It should be a nice warm sunny day here. Looking nice and green this morning. Hey y'all, I am out in the garden this evening. It is a beautiful evening. And I've been waiting for a nice, beautiful night because it's actually time to put some cherry tomatoes in the ground in the garden. So I'm going to start right here with these first 2 rows. We actually still have about a week until our last predicted frost, but the weather looks great on the 7-day forecast. So I'm going to go ahead and go for it. I started my tomatoes kind of late this year. We were out of town and had a lot of stuff going on. So these are only about probably 4 weeks old now, maybe 5. So it's a little early, but they are plenty hardened off. I've had them outside for a while now. So they're small, but I'm going to go ahead and put them in the ground and let them start growing. So I'm going to get busy. All right, y'all, I'm going to show you real quick how I plant my tomatoes. This is a white cherry tomato, and I'm planting them 3 feet apart. So I'm going to go ahead and dig my hole. You want to dig these pretty deep because remember, those little hairs that you see will eventually turn to roots. So you want to bury your plant 2/3 of the way deep. I've got my bag of Epsom salt and eggshells. Mix that in. And take this tomato plant. And it's a good little ways down there. Now you'll see some of these leaves that are at the bottom that are going to be underground. I just pinch those off. They go in the hole with everything else. I'm just going to cover this up. Firm it up a little bit. And then I'm just going to take some of this dirt and mulch mix and just kind of mulch around the base of the plant. That's it. There you go. It's in there pretty deep. Just have the top sticking out really. But this is going to give it a nice, firm, strong root system. All right. All the cherry tomatoes are in the ground. It is a good feeling. The sun just went down and they are all settled in for the night. I put 35 in the ground. Each row is a different variety. I've got several rows that are brand new to us varieties that I've never tried before. So I'm really excited to see how they turn out. Hopefully I can find a good trellis system for them because every year I plant my tomatoes and then I put the trellis up. I should really start doing it the other way around. And I think every year I always have the intention of putting the trellis up first, but then I get so excited and put plants in the ground. I had 3 in the ground and I finally realized, oh no, I said I was gonna do trellises first. So no trellis yet. So we'll just do it as they go, which is normally how I do it. So no surprise there. So it is a beautiful evening out here. The roosters are always crowing. Hopefully the tomatoes sleep peacefully and settle in. And I'll be back out here early in the morning to water them in again. Irrigation for the tomatoes is working good. This is always such a quick, convenient way to water my garden. Thanks for joining us here on the Gramstead. If you want to learn more about homesteading and maybe even growing a little of your own food, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, but please make sure and leave a comment down below. That way I can make sure to say hello. Thanks again.